This episode of Cello Chat is brought to you by Carriage House Violins of Johnson String Instrument. Please visit us at www.carriagehouseviolins.com.
All right, Richard, you're all set?
Okay. Is it on now? Hello. Hello, my name is Richard Aaron. I'm calling in from Ann Arbor. Welcome to Cello Bello Forum. I think this is a wonderful forum to share ideas and sharing thoughts about cello playing. I've seen quite a few of the lectures, and I found very informative and educational. So I hope this talk will help many people out there. What the topic is preparing for auditions, and since there are many people out there who are on different playing fields, some people are younger, some people are in college, some people are professionals or auditioning to become in professional orchestras and things. I wanted to talk about the different thoughts about how we should proceed thinking about auditioning. For the young cellist, many of you have to do youth orchestras. You have to learn excerpts. Very often that when you're younger, we don't do excerpts. So I wanted to talk a little about how to prepare for excerpts and how to work on them. I would try to have many creative ways of working on that. A lot of you are preparing for summer programs. I spend a tremendous amount of time with my college students and high school students preparing to get into summer programs. And it's almost always dealing with learning excerpts again, having a solo piece. And that is also an important concept of preparation. Then there's auditioning for conservatories and universities. That is a whole nother world of preparation that usually takes about 2 years. A lot of juniors and seniors in high school are preparing for that. And I wanted to talk a little about that one in particular. Is since everyone is on a different playing field, some of you are coming from big cities, New York, Chicago, who have a lot of opportunities, and a lot of you are also coming from towns that, smaller towns throughout America that don't have as many opportunities of playing in youth orchestras and things like that. So I feel very strongly that when you're auditioning for conservatories, I don't really look at how you play, I look at your talent. And I think a lot of teachers are like that. So a lot of kids get very stressed out about auditioning for universities, but you have to realize that it's, a teacher really is looking at your gift, your talent. How I see kids when they come to audition is I have 4 years with them and where they're going to be in 4 years from now. I don't really look at where you are at the moment. And I think that should relieve some pressure and some nervousness about when you audition, that just do the best you can, be who you are, and hopefully the teacher or teachers who are auditioning you will see your talent. And that's very, very important for your mindset to go into auditions just to show who you are. Don't worry about being more than what you are. The fourth way of auditions you could look at is our international auditions. These are kids who are usually in college or older. And the preparation for those kind of auditions is very sophisticated and on a very high level. You probably have to have 8, 10, 12 pieces, and over a course of 4 or 5 years, preparing all of them, performing all of them. So that's a different type of preparation. There are not that many people who do that, but that is, I think, a very enjoyable way of preparing, that you're practicing a great deal and you're having amazing experiences around the world, preparing for international competitions. I think that's a great opportunity. And then probably the most difficult preparation for auditions is being a young artist auditioning for orchestras. That's incredibly intense. I think it takes around almost 2 to 3 years of learning your excerpts before you can even compete on that level. I feel that it at the conservatories at universities, kids who are like in their sophomore year, junior year should really start thinking about that, how to prepare for that. If kids at conservatories want to go into chamber music, they should only focus on that and being in a really good chamber music. But even if you're just not in the gear set of auditioning for orchestras and you're moving in a different direction, you still should learn your excerpts, because everyone really does audition a couple of times in their life to be in the local orchestra, or to make some money, or to think that way. So the main things is, those are like 5 concepts of auditioning. Each audition really is a different mindset. It's a different level of thinking. Preparing for orchestras is a very intense experience, and it takes many years of preparation. And we'll talk about that later. I wanted to talk about the mindset of taking auditions. I feel you should go into every audition with the mindset of not winning. You go into the audition as a learning experience. If you win, that's a plus, but you should try to prepare at a very high level, do the audition and learn from it. If, let's say, it doesn't go as well as you think, then you should really rethink how you should prepare for auditions, how you should practice, how you should have a mindset of preparation in a different way if you're not successful many, many times. You really do have to think that there are no winners or losers. Even though one person wins the audition, the process is what's important. I've had kids who've won their first audition. They go to their first audition and win. It's shocking. And I've got other kids who are fabulous cellists who've taken 15, 18, 20 auditions, and then they win one. So the process is what you're after. You can't worry about winning. You just do it, and you do the best you can. And if you're not successful over and over again, then you got to really rethink your preparation. Maybe you're not preparing correctly. You're not thinking in the right way. You don't have the right concept of sound, or the main things of auditions at that level are concept of sound, rhythm, which many people don't work on separately, but rhythm is a vital part of winning a professional audition. And the third thing, of course, is the musical content and musical ideas and how you're shaping a phrase. But it really is concept of sound, rhythm, and musical expression. Those 3 things have to always be in your thinking. What I'd like to do, to prepare for any audition, one has to do the basics. One has to do, if let's say you're not doing well in auditions, it's usually because the basics aren't strong enough. And the basics are just really knowing your scales at a very high level with many different kind of bowings, many different kind of principles of bowings. You really got to work on your thirds every day for intonation and hand position. You got to work on sixths every day for intonation. Also, arpeggios are critical for understanding speeds of shifts, concepts of shifting, and bow organization, bow string crossings, and the timing of the bow with every shift, and the timing of the string crossings, and the basics of the bow patterns, and also shifting. Shifting is, I think, a really critical study of the speeds of the shifts, the musicality of the shift, and how the shift relates to the piece. And since we're talking about basics, we have a special guest. Her name is Megan Yip. She is a doctoral student at the University of Michigan. And I thought it would be really nice if she were to demonstrate some ideas about preparing scales. And then we'll go over this. So maybe what we could do is, I don't know how we're going to do this. We could put Megan on the screen, but also could we, Camden, could we somehow put the thirds and sixths on the screen also with Megan? Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Megan, Is Megan seen? I don't know.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So what we can do, yes, here we go. So why don't we start with, why don't we just start with arpeggios first? I think that's the previous one. There we go. So what's very important when we're doing arpeggios is bow distribution. So what Megan will show is that we'll do 3 da da dee dee da da, and then 4 to a bow, and we'll go up to 12 to a bow. And so watch how she subdivides her bow and how she thinks about the bow and string crossings while she's doing this exercise. So this is one basic exercise I would do every day. Very good, thank you. I'm putting Megan on the spot. I told her yesterday she should do this. So thank you very much. So what I want you to observe is that the bow distribution in every piece you play, every excerpt you play, is this is the basics. You want to go over all the arpeggios thinking about bow distribution so that when you play a piece, you're thinking about the distribution of the bow and organizing every piece you play. The next thing we'd like to do is these, and these are just very basic things that I think are just important to do every day to prepare for your auditions, is we'll do scales in thirds. And thirds, there's a basic pattern, is 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. That's the basic pattern of thirds. There are 5 different fingerings for thirds, but for now, I would just try that. So Megan, do you want to show us just watch how her shape of her hand stays consistent and she's moving the hand in a very simple way. Try that in thirds. Very good. Now the same scale in 3, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, 3. It's the same scale, but with a different fingering. Very good. And the next ones are, you do second finger on every note, 2, 2, 2, 2. So you have major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, minor, major. All second finger. we'll do all third finger. A really hard one, all fourth finger. So everybody has to realize you're doing the same shapes in the hand, but with different fingering. Now, all fourth finger, this is rather difficult. Everybody should do this every day. Probably the hardest is one, first finger on 1, 1, 1, 1, all going Very good. So this is amazing because Megan played an amazing recital last night, and I think this is harder to do than the entire recital. So the idea is that when you're practicing thirds, you want to be creative. You don't want to just play one way of doing it. You want to think every day different ways of practicing it. Now let's do concepts of sixths. Okay, and we put sixths up on our thing. You see, yeah, perfect. So six. What I gave Camden my book. It's like 170 pages, and we can, if you want the book, I'm sure we can somehow put it on the website and you can have it. And what it is that every day is a different fingering. So this is the first day. So it's 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. Isn't that a coincidence that thirds and sixths are the same? So because it is now, it's minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. Thirds are the opposite, major, minor, minor. And so we'll try six, and we'll have many different fingerings. So you'll have the concept. Let's have six starting on D on the A string. Two, 3, 3, 2. Now we're going to put 3 on the top and go 3, 3, 2, 3, 1. So it's a different root of fingerings. Watch our fingerings. So we can go 3, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3. So 3 is always on top. Now we'll do fourth finger on the top. 4, 3, 4, 2. Very good. Now we can do thumb 1. So it's 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay, so the reason why I started with this is because preparing for auditions, you want to understand that the double stops are critical in preparing for any piece you're playing. So, for instance, if I'm playing, let's say, popper number 1, if I go, I practice that in double stop. So you do is based really on understanding thirds and sixths and arpeggios, that your practice is more advanced if you understand these basic premises, so that you want to spend time practicing sixths and thirds and arpeggios to understand how to prepare your pieces better. And that's a very basic thing. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to just say for a second, for a minute, I was in Helsinki recently, and it was fascinating because I was talking with a young man who had 4 children, and he said that in Helsinki, in Finland, is considered the finest education in the world for high school and under. Denmark is second, and I think Taiwan is third, Korea is fourth. There was a list someone showed me. And the reason why Finland is ranked #1 in education is they have no tests, they have no homework, they only learn by playing games. They play games all day long. So for instance, he said to me, his 4th grade son for 2 weeks was just playing poker in school. He couldn't believe it. And by learning poker, they were learning the odds of the cards. So for instance, they were learning, they would put their cards down and they would figure out the odds of winning that hand. So they learned statistics and percentages. And they spent 2 weeks just working with games to learn how to do percentages. And that they would learn every concept of math was always a game, no homework. And the idea really intrigued me because that's exactly how we should be when we play the cello. It should be a game. You should practice as always thinking of flowing and thinking freely and not being dogmatic in your practice. Very often I hear a kid will play something and I ask them how they practiced it. And they usually look at me, what do you mean how I practice? I just played it. They're not playing enough games. They're not figuring it out. So what the main game, I'll tell you what, Megan, I'll show the rest because Megan is a very busy person. She's a doctoral student and she has many things to do. So thank you very much, Megan, for playing your scales for us.
Of course. Bye.
Thank you. See you then. So what I could do is I'll show you some of the games that you want to practice. For instance, if you have the popper #1, first game is replacing. You go. Just replace your finger. By replacing, you're practicing your shifting, you're practicing your hand position. If you look at my hand, your hand's not out of position. You're really focusing on the position of the hand. That's one game. You play a piece. Let's say you have if you have the Schumann, you would. Okay, that's a very real Sevchik exercise. He has that in his books. Then you play a game and double stops replacing. So if I have a minor 6, you replace all the notes. And you work on getting smoother and smoother replacing your notes. If you have a major 6, I would replace major 6, then an extension, 1 and 2. Maybe at this angle you can see it better. So you go through the whole piece doing 4th. So I do 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3 extension, and then minor 6, major 6, major 6, minor minor 6. If you do this, this helps vibrato, this helps hand position, it helps intonation by really preparing. I'm doing this very quickly. You could do it very slowly, just to show you what you're doing. So if you're preparing a piece, go through the whole piece by, let's say, replacing single notes, placing double stops, going through the whole piece. Now, the questions everybody always asks, how do you choose what note you want to play? Every day, different note. If you could do, it doesn't matter what note, it's just the concept of replacing and hand position. You're not doing harmony doing this exercise. You're not like figuring out the harmony of the piece. You can play outside the harmony of the piece. So to prepare those thirds, sixths, and all that is the preparation for how to prepare a piece for auditions. Then the next really important concept of preparation is shifting, as everybody, I have some notes here. Practicing shifting, I would use the same games. I would first practice, let's say, then I would practice in double stops. Okay, and it's way ahead. So here, this is an exercise of shifting, a shifting exercise that goes through every possibility. And what's very important is, I don't know if you see me now. Do they see just the page, or do they see me now, Camden?
We can see you both.
Okay, good. Okay, so when you shift, we'll do it. I won't do this one. This is a lot harder, so kids can do this one. If you start an F, you want to practice so that you don't think in the octave. You think in opening to the note. So if I have an F, so I would think of, you bring your thumb up and then you open to the note. If you ever watch Mr. Harrell or Mr. Ma or any of these cellists, Pierre Fournier only shifted like that. You have the idea of opening. Very important to practice that kind of shift. I call it the New York shift because all the giggers in New York practice that way because you don't miss the shift. You're kind of faking the shift. So that you bring your hand up, keep your hand closed, and then open your hands. Okay? So that this is a basic exercise. So the exercise here is just a constantly practicing opening to the note. And that, I think, is a very helpful exercise. So that every shift you do in preparation to do shifts in double stops. So for instance, if I have this shift, be creative, going replacing the double stop for the shift. And then practicing the shift and double stop. Okay? And there are 5 ways of shifting patterns. You have equal shifts. So you go up equally. You go up one direction. That's the second way. The third way is you get smaller in the shift. And then you get bigger in the shift. So have in every piece, don't just play the shift, be creative. Think of all the ways you can think the shift. It's the basic patterns is replacing, double stopping, replacing, and then shifting in different patterns. And then if I, let's say, have a shift like this, 2 to 4, I would not practice 2 to 4. I'd practice 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4. I would think of every possibility, every common denominator to go through. Don't just play the way it's written, because you want to be very, very creative with that. Now, what inspired me a great deal was when I was like 14 years old, I bought the Starker Organization of the Left Hand. And if you look at the second to the last page in that book, it's the Dvorak Cello Concerto. And he has one shift, like something like that. And he has 2 pages of how to prepare that shift. And when I was like 14, I thought to myself, wow, I don't think that way. I don't think that way at all. I just do a shift back and forth, and that's about my whole, that's my whole Megillah there. I just really didn't do much more than that. And then I realized, by looking at Starker's book, wow, all the possibilities you can have being creative and being aware of what to do with shifting. So I see most of the issues when students are auditioning is the problems with shifting. A basic thing is to double stop shifting, and also then you have to really study the timing of shifting. A lot of people, when I see them play, once I see one shift, I'm going to see all the shifts the same speed. And it's very important to develop different speeds of shifts, and the way to do that is timing, so that you time when you leave the shift. So for instance, if I leave on the beat, here's my metronome, I go on the beat. Now I'm going to leave like 2/3 in the beat. Now I'm going to leave in the middle of the beat. 1 and. Now I'm going to leave on the beat. So that every shift should be sense of timing, and that's your musicality with shifting. So if I go, if I time it, if I go, that's an earlier shift. If I go later, so that's how detailed you want to be if you're playing a piece. And if you have 500 shifts, you have a lot of things to think about, so that every shift has something beautiful about it. Like if this, if you play the Bloch prayer, you don't go on the beat. You just do it before the beat to shift, timing that shift. So everything comes down in preparation for any audition to the basics. You gotta practice your thirds, your sixths, all this stuff, because everything is, that's the root of all your preparation. The other things to prepare, I want to talk for a few minutes about repertoire for preparation, for auditions, especially college auditions. A lot of kids play, and this is really talking to the teachers, a lot of people play repertoire that doesn't show them off enough. So for instance, a lot of kids play Popper number 6. I would never give Popper number 6. All it is a fast thing. It doesn't show totally one's musicality. It shows one stroke, and if you have fast fingers, I would always try to do a lyrical etude. I would always try to show at the audition how musical you are and how expressive you are. Popper 6 is not an expressive etude, so you're spending 4 or 5 minutes in an audition showing not your expressivity. That's not, I don't think that's in your best interest. Playing number 20, 22, playing 30, let me think, just, yeah, those are good. 27 is very musical. 12 is musical. Any Popper etude that's being musical, I would push. I wouldn't do anything that is repetitive, like number 6. Secondly, it goes for also concertos. For instance, a lot of kids play Shostakovich 1. Not the greatest concerto to do. It's really, it's just a few strokes, it's loud, it's a lot of articulation, but it's not showing your line, it's not showing expressive phrasing. The second movement of Shostakovich concerto was very good. That is teaching a lot about how expressive you are and how your phrasing. So if you do Shostakovich 1, I would start with the second movement to show my playing. So that's really important. Another important thing is if you're playing a contemporary piece for schools, or you're playing, I might differ from my colleagues around the country, but I love being challenged, and I love hearing a piece I don't know. I think that's really fun. When a kid plays a modern piece, I've learned so many pieces at auditions that a kid's playing, and I get the music, and I learn that piece, and my students learn that piece. So I think it's great if you have new repertoire. A lot of kids play the same contemporary pieces. There are hundreds and hundreds of pieces you can choose from. So you want to be very creative in your preparation, especially for college auditions, doing something a little off the beaten track. For instance, like Rocha Concerto, something like that. I haven't heard Rocha Concerto in 10 years on audition. That would be really an exciting thing to hear. Another thing for preparation is metronome work. I find that people use the metronome, but you want to use the metronome in a very musical way. You want to make it so that every piece you play, you have the metronome subdividing. You subdivide, you then da, dee, dee, and then dee, da, dee, and then dee, da, dee, dee, da, dee, da. You always use the metronome in different meters, and I find that's really critical for your preparation for auditions. Don't be rigid. Don't do da, because that won't get the flow in your playing. But if you do one beat to every 2 bars, dee, da, dee, dee, da, 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 dee, da, dee, da, dee, da. That's really helpful. Creative metronome work is essential in preparation. Especially in orchestral. If you're an orchestral, trying to win an orchestra job, you have to practice with a metronome nonstop. That's what they're listening for. And so, for instance, if you have you have to every day work on subdividing every excerpt and working in that way. But that's for another story. Like you can have a 6-hour talk on how to prepare for orchestra excerpt stuff, because that's a really difficult thing to prepare. The next thing for kids who are auditioning for college, or even professional auditions, or even younger kids, some people really disagree with me about a tuner. Some people feel, no, you shouldn't use a tuner. Some people swear by it. I really love using a tuner. I find that when students use a tuner, they are more in tune. All it does is awaken the thoughts, awaken your mind to play more in tune and to observe what intonation is. So the problem with a tuner is that we're using our eyes instead of our ears. So the secret of using a tuner is you play a note, don't look at the tuner, and then look at the tuner to see if how far off, how many digits you're off above or below, cents off above or below. So let's say if you have a note and I'm below the A, then I educate myself to the pitch. Don't educate your eyes, educate your ear. That's the big crux of using a tuner, is that kids go, they're tuning, and they're just tuning with their eyes by watching the needle. That's not that helpful. What's helpful is not to look, check, sharp, check, flat, check, so that you hear the pitch and then you observe what the tuner is. You can do an hour talk just about how to tune. I would have Mr. Jensen do that. He wrote a fantastic book about intonation, and I would definitely read that book. It's very, very interesting. So that is, I feel very strongly in using a tuner. I know some people don't feel that. I was always inspired when I had a friend, Frank Cohen, a clarinetist in the Cleveland Orchestra. I never forget, I would go into his room where he practiced, and he had a tuner on this shelf, a tuner on this shelf, and a tuner, and he would just walk around the room tuning, always looking, checking if his pitch is right. I was always inspired by that. I always thought that was such a great idea. But having just one tuner is enough. You don't have to have all over the room. And we can't walk when we play, so that's a shame. So there's a whole bunch of other things I wanted to talk about, but I just want to know if there are any questions. I don't know how that works, Camden. If anybody wrote in a question that they want to ask of what I've said so far, and then we can talk further. Are you there, Camden? I guess not. So let me see. I just wanted to see if, nope, we don't have any questions.
No questions so far.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions of what I said, please type them in and we can answer it. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is, I think, Camden, you have the pictures that I had. Do you have those? Can we pull
Yep, let me pull those up for you.
The one with the circles. When you go to an audition, in a professional audition, they're looking for your rhythm, they're looking for your pitch, and they're looking for your concept of sound. Yeah, the one before. Yeah, no, yeah. Okay, so this picture just shows, oh, maybe it's the next one. Next. No, maybe the one before the one. No, maybe before. Okay, well, maybe it's, no, not, keep on going. Keep on going. Maybe it's at the end. Okay, well, we'll look at, okay, let's look at the one you just before that. Okay, so do you see the middle picture, how there's red, green, and blue? The idea is that every note, you want to divide every note into three parts. You have the beginning of a note, where you articulate a note. You have the green part, sustaining of the note. And then the blue part is how you finish a note. Here, finishing the note. That usually is the most polished. So the idea is that every note has a beginning, middle, and end, and that you want to focus when you're playing a phrase. If you have, let's say, 3 notes, I want to focus how I enter the note, how I enter the note, how I enter the note. Then you put all your attention on how you sustain the note. Sustain, sustain, sustain. And then you have to think about how every note decays. Here, decay, decay, decay. So that every note has a beginning, middle, and end. And so if you play, let's say, any piece, if I went, then you have the idea of, like, in the green on the top where it says mezzo forte, I'm entering in the middle of my note. Okay, the red one next to it, I'm entering on the bottom of the note, which is forte. And I come out piano, so I come out the top of the note. Then the blue one next to the center, I come out the top of the note, and I go to the bottom of the note. And then the one on the bottom, you have just quiet green. The blue would be the center of the note, and the red is the bottom of the note. So the idea is that every note you play, you have the idea of where you enter the note. That gives a lot more creative idea than just saying play a note. You have to think in your mind, if I'm entering from the top, and I go to the center of the note, that you have a real creative way of looking at sound, which is really essential for how you come across. If I just play every note without thinking, if I think like the bottom of the note, middle of the note, and the top, then I have an idea of shape and sound in the phrase. I hope that makes sense for people, this picture. What's the previous picture? Okay, yeah, this is the same idea. This is coming from one note to another. Like for instance, the top picture, if I have the bottom note, and I come out through after the note to the top of the next note. If I go, so I'm shaping, that's exactly what I think. I think the line going from note to note. The middle one would be bottom. I'm sorry, it's heavy, light, heavy. Or if I went light, so I'm thinking how I come out of the first note, come out light, and then come down in. The third drawing on the bottom is I'm a light, and I go into the next note. So the idea is the imagery of that every note has to have direction and has to have a concept of sound to go from one note to another. That drawing, a pianist taught me this many years ago in Switzerland, that he had on a chalkboard exactly like this, but can you imagine on piano doing that, which is much more difficult than what we can do. He had the concept of hitting a note and hitting the next note and shaping one note to the next, but on piano, to me, that's much more difficult. I think we can sing. Like if I have this note on the upper half and then lower half, so that in my mind, I'm picturing a line going through the note. If I have a phrase, I'm thinking here on the top, deeper in the note, and then out from the top again. So does that, I hope that makes sense to everybody. When I saw this, when this person gave this in a class, I just thought, whoa, that's a very strong image that I should have in my mind. And if you ask someone, if there are teachers there, if you ask a student, what is a musical idea? Students have had hundreds and hundreds of lessons. And if you ask them, just explain to me what a musical idea is, they find it very hard to explain because it's a very abstract concept. What a line is quite abstract. But if you, let's say, draw a picture like this for them and show them that you go through notes and how you shape sound through a note, it's less abstract. So to me, I think people learn abstract ideas, but to simplify the abstract ideas so they can use the idea in their thinking. This is very difficult to do, to teach the concept of sound within, and almost all auditions, like all orchestra auditions, it's all, so you have to decide where you're coming into the note. Where should that note be? Should it be, or should it be on the upper part? I hear it on the upper part of the note. I hear all three notes in the Beethoven in a different place, so that this note is kind of in the middle, this note is deeper down, and this note is ephemeral, floating, so that you really think about every note. Okay. I wanted to talk also a little about concepts of sound dealing in the body. And could we look at the picture, Camden? The first one, I think, first or second one. There, that one. This is an idea that I think is helpful for people. I had so much fun drawing that picture. These are not by my 4-year-old child he's 27 now, but my son, he did not draw that. That was me drawing. It looks like a child drawing, but it was me. That's just, yeah, I'm just a very bad drawer. So the idea is that when you play, you have the bow like this in your body. You have the frog at the base of your spine. You have the tip of your bow at the base of your neck to balance your body. And that every part of the bow is a part of your spine. So for instance, if I take the bow and I put it like this, I feel the base of my spine. Here, when I'm at the tip of my bow, I'm at the tip of my head, right in here. So that I'm always relating the bow to my body. So that if I hear sound, if I want to make a really rich sound, I'm trying to relate it to my body. It's not, I'm moving the bow and I'm playing the cello. I want to be connected. And even though this is different from the idea of auditioning, this is just a concept that when you audition, the sound you make is everything. And the more connected you feel, the better. So if I go and I feel the tip of my bow right here in my neck, here I stop my bow in the middle. I'm in the middle of my spine. Here I'm at the lower part of my back. Here I'm right at the bottom of my spine. That also is kind of an important concept. So that if you hear a sound like that, that's not really centered. Here I'm here at the base of my spine. Here I'm in the middle of my back. Here I'm moving. So I'm always feeling connected, so that when you audition, you don't feel all over the place. So you feel centered. And that is kind of a helpful thing to work on. We could talk about other things, but there are no questions, Camden? Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so I think we can then move on. What would you recommend, Camden? Should we continue, or should we, what would you recommend?
We actually just got a question.
What's it again?
Do you have advice for speed in the left hand? I'm not sure if that means shifting, but maybe you can give us some thoughts on.
Is it speed of vibrato or speed of shifting?
I'm not sure. I think it was might be regarding shifting.
Okay, well, the speed of the shift, like I was saying before, is always determined by when you leave the note. So if you go, so if I leave the note, every speed of shift should be different. You don't want to have, that's your expressivity. So if I were to go slow shift, and then a fast shift to get back to the note, that's your musical choice. If you want to go a fast shift and then a slow shift, you have to determine on the beat of when to leave. So if I had a metronome on, I'd go on the beat and then before the beat. So every shift is determined by your musical expression, what you want to achieve with that, or having, it's your choice. Speed should never be the same. And that's why when you practice arpeggios, you want to work on that. So for instance, if I have a metronome and I go just in the middle of the beat, or if I go on the beat, if I do before the beat, that's why you really do want to practice arpeggios, because that will teach you what to look for in those speeds. Okay, I got a question here. What are teachers these days looking for in a student at an audition? How much repertoire should a student have covered before college, concertos, etudes? That's a very good question, because the question is what they're looking for. I personally only look at the talent of the person. I don't really care how they play. I have a story that I tell kids, that I had a student who got in, who auditioned for me, who auditioned for like 9 places and didn't get in anywhere, and I took him. And I thought he was the greatest thing, and he just wasn't very well set up. But after like a year, he was amazing, and he's very successful right now. And I'm very proud of the fact that I saw that talent and other people didn't. It's like a diamond in the rough. So I feel that teachers are different. Some teachers really go by how you play at the audition. If you do this or that. I don't listen to kids that way. I listen just how talented they are. I feel that in 4 years, they will develop, and I hope they develop. Then the other part of that question is, how much repertoire should a student have before college? That is tricky, because it's good to have a lot of repertoire, but I would probably, most kids work on music that's too hard for them. It's better to have smaller repertoire and play it really well than to have vast amounts of repertoire and kind of run through things. I think it's very important to have a lot of etudes. Like every high school kid should know their poppers. They should know their Dotsaurs. You know, there are many, many Dotsaur books. We only usually use the beginning Dotsaur book, but to do the Dotsaur books, really important. To know the Piattis, to know etudes, it's very important. As important as pieces. And I would also learn a lot of short pieces, like all the Casado short pieces, all the Popper short pieces. I wouldn't focus so much on the concertos. I have practiced with a tuner for years, trying to keep it only as a reference. Is that a bad habit? No, very good. Using the tuner as a reference is the best thing, because you're thinking about pitch and you're thinking about intonation. And I think that reference of using a tuner is terrific. That's a very good habit. Make that a good habit. What was the music that you used today? Oh, that is I leave it with Camden. I'm sure you can somehow get it on Cello Bello. I have 160 pages of just scales with all different fingerings. I arranged it so that it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 1 week, and then another week, Monday through Sunday, and every day is different scales and different fingerings. It gets very complicated, but it'll be I'll somehow put it on Cello Bello, and you can have that. It's a PDF, and you could put it in your iPad. What is the role of learning contemporary music and developing Korean music? That's a wonderful, that means that person's thinking the right way. I think it's critically important that you play contemporary music. And world premieres, have friends write you pieces. I think that's how you really learn about the cello, learn about all the different ways of playing the cello. It pushes the limit of your technique. So I would absolutely always have a contemporary piece in your hands, or studying or researching to find contemporary pieces. That's a wonderful way to really improve your playing. Going to any music library, whenever I visit a school to give a class, I always visit the library. I literally make time in my schedule to visit that library, because libraries are a great source. That Imus LP is fabulous. There's a lot of stuff on there, but not as much contemporary music. And so I always scour through libraries. Oberlin is a great library. Eastman has a great library. Juilliard has a terrific library. All these schools, whenever I am near a school like that, I'll always visit the library to find new material, new pieces. Tell us about the instruments behind you. Yes, I'd be happy to. These are viola da gambas. This is a tenor. This is a tenor viol. This is a bass viol by the same maker near Siena, Italy. His name is Sergio Gistri. I just bought this one literally like a week ago. Came from Siena. I love playing the gamba. I think it's so much fun. During the pandemic, I took it up, and I really am fascinated by it. And I spend a lot of time practicing the viol. So when the question was, are you interested in contemporary music? Yes, I like the whole spectrum of really learning contemporary music on the cello, and then learning gamba, which is a whole nother world of repertoire. It's amazing repertoire. And that cello is an old Italian cello. It's a no-name Italian cello. It's a very beautiful cello. And this cello is a Larry Wilkie cello that is my aunt's, who is, matter of fact, she just gave it to me because she doesn't play anymore, and I just got it, and I was going to show some students this cello. Is a very beautiful cello, really beautiful back, and it's a very nice Larry Wilkie. He's a wonderful maker out of Connecticut, and so yeah, that's about the instruments. But gamba, any cellist, and when you're in school, I would highly recommend studying the gamba. It's a wonderful instrument. It also teaches you how to play Baroque cello better, and it's a worthwhile thing to learn. Okay. All right. So, do you think, Kendra, we'll wrap this up?
I think it's been a wonderful cello chat. If you have any more things to share with us, you're welcome to. But
well, I'll tell you what. I have one thing that's not to do with auditions. That is my. I'm very interested in now. I'm doing this with all my students, and I think I'll show people. It's a brace that you put on your elbow, and I'll show you. This takes like 1 minute. This is a gimmick. I had a golf lesson, and the guy did something similar to this, and I learned a great deal in golf. And I find this really helpful. I have to go like this. It's called Neo G. It's on Amazon, and I've never put on such a big sweater, but you put it over your elbow like this. I'll show you. And you wrap this, it's like having a blood pressure taken. And it keeps, everybody see that? It keeps your elbow firm. So when you play this, when you open the bow, it forces you to feel from the back. It's the best gimmick. I hope you can see that. Do you see that? It's because I have a dark shirt on. So it's this brace that you put over your elbow, and watch the motion from my back. Especially at the tip. It forces so that your elbow isn't loosey-goosey.
Be sure to get Richard's PDF.
I hear someone there. And so it forces you to think this, that I'm moving from the back, turning out. So if it's on Amazon, and if you try it, I think you'll get a big kick out of it. I've done it with my students, and everybody goes, wow, because their sound is much bigger, and it makes it it makes it easier to feel. So from the back, so you put it on for like 5 minutes, then you take it off, and then you realize you got to pull from the back, that you're not separating the elbow from the wrist. I have another, I'd like to copy it into the chat. Oh, can you share the link for the Etude book with me? You could, you guys can copy that in the chat. I'm sure you can. Okay, yeah, I don't have the link from you. I think I sent an email to Camden. Did I send that to you, Camden?
I don't think I have it.
It's a very big file. It's like almost 200 pages. I think I
Okay,
emailed it might take some time to get to you.
okay, I can look.
Or do you have Fourscore? Do you have the Fourscore?
Yeah, if you send it to me.
Problem, if you send Fourscore, if people don't have Fourscore, they won't be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like if I send it as a link of Fourscore, then here, I'll send it again to you. It's such a big file, it usually takes like, I'll send it Fourscore for you, and then you can send it in the link as a PDF. Would that be okay?
Sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it. Okay, good. Okay, so if there are any other questions, the main thing about, I was only going to talk about, just the art of preparing for auditions, but it comes down to just learning the basics and to learn. You will audition better if you really know your basics, if you really do just have the basic concepts of sound and concepts of shifting, concepts of thirds and sixths and things like that. There's another question, what about practicing with drones? Yes, drones is a very good way of doing it, but the problem with that is you could put one note on and play a passage, but then you have to change the drone to play the next passage harmonically. You want to play harmonically within the context of the piece. So you have to make sure you have the right note on to figure out the drone. So you're changing the drone a lot. I sometimes see kids and they show me how they practice with drones and they put it on one pitch and play a whole piece. I wouldn't do that. I would put on one pitch for about 2 bars later. When it changes key or it changes tonality, then you have to do it to the right drone. Or you could do it to the fifth or the third or the root of the chord, but I wouldn't like do it like a sixth or a seventh of a chord, or if it's the wrong note, it isn't as helpful. Okay. Well, I wanted to thank Cello Bello for giving this opportunity. I really enjoyed what Cello Bello is doing, and I hope this was helpful for everyone. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you.
To the fans of Cello Bello.
Okay. See you then. Bye-bye.